I seem to be able to put my feelings down in a song easier than I can talk about it. I play me better than anybody.
The 92-year secret. Willie Nelson reveals the 7 artists he hates most, a shocking list of betrayers. Willie Nelson, born in 1933, is a legend of American country music. They call him the Buddha of country, the man who never holds grudges. For decades, he has been the symbol of forgiveness, an artist who almost never took offense at anyone. But at 92, the indomitable Willie Nelson is no longer advocating peace. He has chosen to tear away the curtain and expose the deepest anger that has simmered throughout his life. He has begun naming 7 people who betrayed him, mocked his beliefs, or turned friendly competition into a cold war that could never be mended. This story isn't just about personal feuds, it is a painful indictment of what has happened to the soul of country music, told through the eyes of the man who witnessed it all. And the last name on the list will leave you speechless. Garth Brooks. At the very top of the list of things Willie Nelson could never forgive sits Garth Brooks, the celebrated golden hero of modern country music. The irony is brutal. While Willie was still touring county fairs with his battered old guitar Trigger, Brooks was soaring across arenas on suspension wires in a blaze of fireworks. To the audience, it was magic. To Willie, it was a betrayal of authenticity. "You can't sell struggle if you've never lived it," he reportedly muttered after watching Brooks perform Friends in low places with full-on Broadway theatrics. The tension exploded in 2004 at the Country Music Hall of Fame induction. Brooks stood on stage praising Willie as the moral compass of the genre. But backstage, Willie looked him dead in the eyes and said, "Next time, sing it like you actually feel it." From that night on, Willie refused every duet offer, every joint appearance, every photo op with Brooks. To him, Brooks represented everything the genre had turned into: plastic perfection, polished, hollow, and manufactured. Waylon Jennings. On this list, no one cut deeper than Waylon Jennings. Many saw Waylon as Willie Nelson's closest friend, the soulmate who helped him ignite the legendary outlaw country movement. They were family, building an era of rebellious music together. But beneath that brotherhood simmered jealousy and an ideological betrayal Willie could never forgive. The tension began when the outlaw craze started to fade. Waylon grew frustrated that every headline read Willie and Waylon, not Waylon and Willie, a slow-burning resentment he kept buried. But the killing blow was Waylon's shift in career direction. Instead of staying independent, he signed a major deal with a big Nashville label, the very system he and Willie had once sworn to resist. He returned to polished studios with establishment producers, an act Willie saw as selling out every outlaw ideal they had bled for. The betrayal reached its peak when Waylon released The Buddha and the Bandit. The hit was a thinly veiled mockery, sneering at Willie's use of marijuana, his peace-driven philosophy, and his habit of protecting forgotten young artists. To Willie, the lyrics felt like a knife to the soul. The moment the song hit the airwaves, Willie called Waylon and delivered his final, bitter words: "You're a coward, Waylon. You sold our blood." He hung up. It was the last time the two lifelong brothers ever spoke. Their break became irreversible after an early 80s interview where Waylon, half joking, half honest, called Willie a hippie in cowboy boots who forgot where he came from. The throwaway remark cut the final thread holding their friendship together. When Waylon passed in 2002, Willie did not attend the funeral. He sent only a short, cryptic, heartbreaking note: "See you somewhere down the road." It was the coldest, saddest goodbye, a final acknowledgement that the wound of betrayal would never truly heal. Shania Twain. Willie Nelson never cared for glamour, but Shania Twain's brand of pop country infuriated him. For a man who spent his entire life chasing truth in every lyric, watching Shania turn country music into a meticulously choreographed performance felt like watching a friend sell her soul for a handful of glitter. The tension began in the late 90s. Willie once told a sound engineer, "Country music should bleed, not sparkle." The point of no return came at the CMA Awards, when Shania won Entertainer of the Year. Willie sat behind her, expressionless. When Shania tried to shake his hand, he didn't just ignore her, he poured a cup of ice-cold coffee onto the floor right in front of her, eyes like frost. He hissed, "Country music should bleed, not glitter with tinsel." Then he walked past her as if she didn't exist. To Willie, Shania was living proof that the music industry had lost its compass, trading raw emotion for choreography and losing its backbone in the process. Toby Keith, if Willie Nelson's other feuds were about artistic authenticity, then his clash with Toby Keith was a full-blown war of politics and ideology. Willie is the embodiment of peace and gentle rebellion, while Toby Keith turned himself into the loudspeaker of post-9/11 nationalism. Willie summed up his philosophy with one blunt line: a guitar should never wave a flag. It was a direct shot at Toby Keith, the man who turned country music into a parade of extreme patriotic rhetoric. What pushed Willie from dislike into pure disgust was Keith's song courtesy of the Red, White and Blue, the Angry American. Willie believed it wasn't music at all, just a loud endorsement of violence and division, decorated with faux patriotism. The feud escalated when Keith publicly labeled Willie a traitor to America after Willie performed at a peace concert. Things hit their breaking point when Keith invited Willie to a show decked out with heavy military decor, turning the stage into a miniature battlefield. Willie sent back a cold, razor-sharp message: "I don't sing for war, and I don't share a stage with someone who brings war to it. Pass that on to your angry American." After that, Willie couldn't hide his disgust watching Keith wave flags and shout slogans, turning a charity performance into a political rally. Willie confronted him and said, "You are using music to fight, not to heal." Toby just smirked and walked away, which only solidified Willie's stance. Willie's final judgment was brutal and unforgettable: "I've met louder men, but not many emptier ones." From that moment on, the rule was permanent: where there's Toby Keith, there is no Willie Nelson. Merle Haggard. The relationship between Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard wasn't a rivalry, it was an artistic brotherhood forged through time, struggle, and music. They didn't just help build the outlaw country movement together as a rebellion against Nashville's corporate control, they created timeless masterpieces. The peak of their bond was the legendary 1983 duet album Poncho and Lefty, with its title track still considered one of the most haunting, emotional duets in the history of country music. This shared respect and common artistic vision is exactly what made the later betrayal feel so tragic. Merle made one fatal mistake: he poked fun at Willie's greatest belief, marijuana. Willie's faith in personal freedom was sacred, but Merle began joking that Willie had become the mascot of marijuana, not a musician anymore. Everything blew up when Merle decided to drop the joke on stage, just a few feet from Willie: "Marijuana is a lazy man's crutch." The crowd laughed. Willie didn't. To him, it wasn't comedy, it was an attack on the philosophy and lifestyle that had bound them together. Willie finished his set, walked straight to his tour bus, and didn't say a single word. The fallout was instant. The new joint album they were planning quietly disappeared from the schedule. The collaboration died on that stage, killed by a single sentence. Years later, Willie said only this: "There are things you just don't joke about." When Merle passed away, Willie honored him as one of the greats, but refused to call him "my closest friend." That cold distinction said everything. A legendary brotherhood ended with a line that could never be crossed again, a line drawn by disrespect in front of an audience. Kris Kristofferson. This feud carved the deepest wound of all, not because of music, but because of a betrayal of personal trust. Willie Nelson and Kris Kristofferson were blood brothers in spirit, founding members of the legendary Highwaymen, bonded for 40 years. Willie even publicly defended Kristofferson during a major copyright lawsuit, paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees for his friend. Willie's loyalty had no limits. But in return, Kristofferson delivered a devastating blow. Instead of speaking privately, he wrote an op-ed in Rolling Stone attacking the biofuel projects and organic farm initiatives that Willie poured his heart into. Kristofferson called them new money vanity projects and accused Willie of betraying the hard work principles they had built their legacy on. Willie called him Furious, if you've got a problem with me, say it to my face, Chris. Don't use someone else's money to buy a pen and humiliate me. When Christopherson tried to explain it was meant as constructive criticism, Willie cut him off, ice cold. I don't need an architect to design my life. I need a friend. And you're not one. But the biggest shock came later. At a private fundraiser in the mid-2000s, after Willie performed a raw, emotional political ballad, Chris slightly drunk leaned toward the crowd and delivered the killing line. Willie's become more of a mascot than a musician. Willie heard it. He froze, then walked out without a word. By the next morning, every duet plan they had was canceled permanently. Later, Willie admitted only this: some words don't fade. They leave a stain. For decades of loyalty vanished in a single moment of disrespect, a personal and ideological betrayal that ended one of country music's most storied brotherhoods. Kid Rock. Kid Rock is the final name on the list, the embodiment of the disrespect and hollow showmanship Willie Nelson could never tolerate. Though they had collaborated before, even sharing the stage on songs like Shotgun Willie and Last Stand in Open Country, suggesting a once manageable relationship, the 2008 studio session marked the end of the line. Willie agreed to record with Kid Rock, who at the time was chasing a Southern outlaw phase. Willie hoped to find some real, grounded rebellion. Instead, Kid Rock showed up looking for a party. The session unraveled fast. Kid Rock arrived late, beer in hand, blasting his own music through the studio speakers and ignoring the entire production crew. When Willie gently suggested a softer, more soulful arrangement, Kid Rock laughed and tossed out, "Come on, old man. Relax." That was the moment Willie realized he'd made a mistake. The disrespect and unprofessional attitude pushed the famously patient country Buddha to his limit. Willie took off his headphones, stood up, and walked out of the studio without another word. The session ended on the spot. The track was never released. From that day forward, Willie rejected every invitation to collaborate. To him, Kid Rock represented a loud but empty voice he wanted no part of. Willie summed up his disgust in one cryptic, cutting line: "Some fires are better left unlit."